Well, welcome back to my shop. Today, I'm going to make a small cocobolo bowl, something I've been wanting to do for quite some time. A couple of years ago, I went to a lumber yard, and you don't normally sell retail, mostly wholesale sales. I didn't know that when I went there, and I caught him on a day when he wasn't real busy. He gave me a tour of his place and asked me what kind of work I did, and I told him I did segmenting work. So he gave me a couple of sticks of wood. They were used to set pallets on when they were shipped in. They were twisted a little bit and they had cracks all through them, but they were cocobolo, about 2.5 inches square and about 5 foot long. He gave me 2 pieces of them. And I cut them up, got the good wood I could out of them. This is what I got out of it right here. And ever since then, I've been wanting to make a cocobolo bowl. The problem with that is I don't have a piece big enough for the base. And I didn't really want to do 2 together to make a base. So I finally broke down and bought me 1 stick of cocobolo. It's expensive, more than I can really afford, being as I'm retired military, but I got it anyway. So I'm going to cut a piece off the end to make a base. And I normally don't like to make things real shiny, but with this cocobolo, I'm going to put the buffer system on it. So I'm going to be using the buffer system on it, and we'll see just how shiny I can get it. I think I'm still going to put shellac over it after I get it buffed out before I put wax on it. We'll see how that works out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I got a rough drawing here, like I always do, and it's just a very small bowl, nothing real big, about 4 inches across the bottom or so, and it's about 5 or so inches across the top. And I'm going to follow this pretty much and see what we can do. I'm making an add-on to this video. When I made the video and took it and started editing it, I found out that I had the fan pointing in the wrong direction. I was picking up a lot of wind noise. So the video not real good. It's got a lot of wind noise on it. I'm not real proud of it. But the whole purpose of the video was so I could show the use of this buffing system. I've won this buffing system in a drawing. I got 3 buffers for the inside, which I don't know what you call them, ball buffers or whatever. 1 for triple E, 1 for what they call white diamond, and one used for the wax. And I just put them on a drill and used them on the inside, which seemed to work pretty good. Of course, the turning was still on the lathe and it was moving too, so they buffed it out pretty good. But during the video on using these, one clip, the one where I was putting on the triple E, was so bad that I cut most of it out. I'm sorry to say you can't see too much of it. And I also got the wheels to use on the outside, 1 for triple E, 1 for the white diamond, and 1 for the wax. And of course I got the wax and the white diamond and the triple E. So I've got everything except for the motor and arbor, which I've mounted a motor and a 5/8 arbor, put them on a mount. I'll show you that in a minute. This is just a simple arbor I've got mounted on two bearings, one on each side, 5/8 inch arbor. I got pulleys on it. I mounted this old 2 horsepower motor I got. I put a switch box on it. It's really very simple. Like I said, it spins at about 2,000 RPM, and it does a good job. There's nothing to it really, just a mount for motor and an arbor. So that's it. That's what I'm using, which seems to work pretty good. I've got a pulley ratio that gives me a speed of about 2,000 RPM. I got a old 2 horse motor that I scrounged, so that works pretty good. And what I did, I had some a whole bunch of small pieces of cocobolo. Here's a couple of them. I was given a couple of sticks of cocobolo that were pretty big, but they were full of cracks and twists and everything. But I got them for free, and I cut out as much good wood as I could from it. Here's a couple of pieces. So I decided I wanted to make a bowl with these, but I wanted a piece for the bottom, so I bought 1 stick of cocobolo, just big enough so I could get some bottom pieces out of it. And I cut a bottom piece, and I mounted it, and started turning it, and then I glued on the first ring made from these. When I got the first ring on it and started turning the inside, I realized the first ring didn't match the bottom at all. And so I did what I always do if I don't like a ring for any reason whatsoever. If it's just not right, or I just don't like it, I'll part it off, which is what I did. I parted it off. Then I took the rest of the stick and cut it up. This is all that's left of it, just this one piece. And I made rings out of it, and I finished a bowl with that. That's this bowl here. And then I sanded it to 400, and then I put the buffer on it. I buffed the inside first with the balls, and I took it to the arbor and buffed the outside, and it is pretty shiny. As you can probably see, it's awful shiny. I did put shellac on it before I waxed it, so it come out pretty good. But then I had that ring left over, and I still had some pieces, so I went ahead and glued up some pieces for the bottom, made a new bottom out of glued up pieces. Normally I don't like to do that, but I did it. And I made a second bowl, and that's first ring still don't match right. You can see the first ring just don't match at all right. But this one I didn't put on a buffer. What I did is I sanded it to 400, and then I used the Scotch-Brite pads on it. And it come out, I can't really tell the difference. To me it looks just as nice and shiny as the one that was buffed. And these are the Scotch-Brite pads, of course. You can get these relatively cheap, and they replace the finer grits. There's 4 different ones, 4 different grades, and I use these all the time, and they make stuff pretty shiny. Fact is, I think the next video I'm going to make is on sanding. Sanding is so easy. A lot of people don't like to sand, but it is relatively easy if you do it right. And I'm going to take a piece and show how to sand it really quickly. No problem at all. I'm going to start with it fairly rough, start about 100 grit, and sand it up right away, and then put the Scotch-Brite pads on it and take it up to a real good shine and show how that's done. But anyway, that's what happened to the video, so there's a lot of noise in it, and I apologize for that. And just let you go ahead and watch the video. So first thing I'm going to do is cut this off square. I'm going to mount it in my coal jaws like I always do. I'm going to turn a mortise in it, and I'm going to turn a ring around it to guide for the bandsaw cut, just like I always do, and then I'll put it on the chuck. So let's get started and cut a piece off the end. I've got it marked where I want to cut a mortise in it. I've also got the edge marked where I want to cut a groove just for a bandsaw guide so I can trim the corners off after I get it cut. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the mortise in and put a groove in here. I've got a mortise turned in it now. I've got a groove turned for the bandsaw guide. Now I put a mortise in it rather than a tenon. It makes better sense to me because when you finish the bottom, you got to dish it out unless you want it to rock on the table when you set it down. So you just have to cut the tenon off and then dish it anyway. So I've already got a good dish started here. So I'm going to go ahead, put it on the bandsaw, cut it up, and then mount my jaws and put it on a chuck. Mount my chuck and put it on the jaws rather. I've got it mounted now on the chuck. I'm going to turn the outside round. I'm going to start dishing out the center. I'm going to leave about 3/4 to an inch on the edge that I'm going to flatten and sand to glue the first ring onto. So I got the inside dished a little bit. Got the outside turned flat, and I'm going to use a sanding stick to flatten it up. Get it smooth and ready for the first ring. I got it flattened good now, so I got to start now making the first ring. Because of the angle, the first ring's going to have to be a wide ring. And I've got one stick that's pretty wide. I'm going to use it. It's about almost 1.5 inches wide, not quite. And I think I can get a 5.5-inch ring out of it. I'm going to try. If I miss, well, I'm going to have to dig some other material up. 5.5-inch ring, I'm going to use 16 segments per ring. Calls for 1.094. And this is 17 3/4 long. So it's going to be close, but I'm going to try and cut 16 segments that size from it. So let's see what I cut and sanded. Got them dry clamped, hold them to the light and check for gaps. And in this case I got a gap. Got a gap on the inside of the ring. Which means I'm going to have to pull one segment out and change the angle on it with a disc sander. I've got to put less angle on one segment. So I'm going to pull one out and sand it on the disc sander so I can get a good fit. One segment for less angle. Now I got to check it for gaps again. This time it looks good, no gaps. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it up. Well, the sanding's still fresh. This is oily wood, and I like to glue it right after I sand it. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this up now. I've got it glued up now. I'm going to let it set for 15 minutes. Now, if you want to know about this clamp I'm using, this is something I come up with a couple of years ago. It's a lot better than band clamps, a lot easier to use. I did a video on how to make it and how to use it. If you want to know about making the basic segmented rings, I did a video on making them, both half ring method and single glue up method. So if you need more information, please watch those videos. Other than that, I'm just going to let this dry for 15 minutes. I'll hang it up. Okay, the ring's actually been dried over 15 minutes. I went in the house to eat, so I mounted it in the cold jaws. I'm going to turn one side flat and sand it smooth so so I can glue it onto the base. I've got it turned and sanded flat. Because it's an oily wood, I'm going to glue it up right away. I'm not going to let it sit long. I'm going to put the coal jaws on the tailstock. I'm going to remount the chuck on the spindle here, and then I'm going to just bring them up and glue them together. Put a little glue on this. A lot more than what I really need. Put this in the tailstock. Bring her up together. I'm going to spin it around, spread the glue and thin it out. Tighten it a little bit and spin it some more. Being as how the base is a solid piece, I don't need to line it up any particular spot. Just spin it around, get it thinned out some. You don't want to spin anymore, it's starting to catch now. Yeah, that's it. Tighten her down. Put some wax paper to protect the bed of the leg. Yeah, just let her sit for 15 minutes or more. I got the first ring on, now I got the next two rings. They're both going to be 6 inches, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut both of them at the same time. The 6-inch ring, 16 segments. Going to be cut length of 1.1934. 1.2 is close enough. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 32 segments, 1.2. The first ring has been glued on now and dried. I'm going to start turning the inside now and blend the bottom into it. I'm not going to turn it all the way at the top, because I got to glue the second ring on and blend it into the second ring. But I'm going to start turning the inside, and then I'm going to flatten it here and sand it to get a good gluing surface. After I started turning and sanding, I found out that this new cocobolo I got and the old cocobolo I was using is just not a close enough match at all. I don't like it. So what I did is I parted off this first ring. It looks like I'm going to end up with 2 cocobolo bowls eventually. So what I'm going to do now for this one, I'm going to have to take this new material, and as much as I hate to, I'm going to have to cut strips from it and build some rings to put on here. So next thing I'm going to do is cut some strips. It won't be as high as the old one, so I'll probably have to put maybe 4 rings on it. I don't know, we'll see. And so first thing I'm going to do is strip this out and start making some rings. Well, I'm back to where I was before. I cut 3 new rings after I parted the one off I didn't like. I glued one on and started turning on the inside. Now I've got the second one glued on, and I'm going to continue turning on the inside, and then I'm going to glue on the third and last ring. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some more turning and sanding, and then I'll glue on the third ring. I got all the rings on now. I'm going to go ahead and finish turning the inside. After I finish turning the inside, then I'm going to sand it out in there. I'm going to go ahead and finish sanding the inside now. Now, sandpaper is a cutting tool, and like any other cutting tool, when it's sharp, it cuts good. After it gets dull, it's almost impossible to use. So the sandpaper I'm using comes from Klingsport. It's good high quality cloth back sandpaper. I've got quite an assortment of it. I'm going to make a quick pass with each grade up to 400. That's all I got in the clings for paper. And I've got some 800 Abranet I'm going to use. So I'm going to go through all of them, and I'm just going to make a quick pass with each one. No need just rubbing it back and forth. Just one quick pass, and that should do it. So let's get started on that. Normally I'd have my vacuum on, but with the vacuum on it makes too much noise. I'm going to use a piece of sponge to back them. I'm going to start with 180. Probably don't need that much. Probably could start with 220, but I'm going to start with 180. Then I'm going to 220. $240. Most people don't have $240, but I just happen to have a bunch of it. So $280. $320. $400. That's as high as my sandpaper goes. Now some 800 Abranet. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably don't. Now you can see that's quite shiny. What I'm going to do is use the buff pads. So let's get those set up. I've got it shellacked. I've got the wax buffer set up. I hope I got it loaded with enough wax. Let's see what happens. Now if you can see the light shining in there, but that is some kind of shiny. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn the... I've got the outside turned and sanded. Now I'm going to have to buff it just like the inside. But unlike the inside, I'm going to use the big buffing wheels. These wheels right here, which I've got an arbor set up. So I'm going to temporarily take it off the chuck and buff it down with these wheels. I've got a motor I scrounged somewhere. I think it was off an old lathe. Got it hooked to a 5/8 arbor. So I'm just going to use the wheels. First one, of course, is a triplet, and I'm just going to buff this out as much as I can. I'm still going to have to turn it and finish the bottom. So I'll buff it as much as I can on this. that's pretty smooth and shiny. Now I'm going to change wheels and put on a white diamond. I'm not going to sit there and run the camera while I do the white diamond. It's just the same thing with a different wheel. So after I do the white diamond, we'll see what it looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like with just a white diamond buff, no finish on it. So I'm going to put it back on the chuck now, and I'm going to put some shellac on it, and then I'm going to wax it, and we'll see what it looks like. Well, there it is. Shellac, and put on the wax. Get some light on it, maybe you can see it. I don't know. Might be hard to see with no lights on. It's pretty shiny. I'm going to have to turn it over now. Reverse it and turn the bottom off. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on cold jaws. First I'm going to put blue tape around the edge to protect it. I'm going to put it in the cold jaws and bring the tailstock up and then turn the bottom. It's mounted on the cold jaws. I got the tailstock up. I'm just going to turn it. I'm going to turn down this outside here to match that. I'm going to have to do some more sanding and buffing here right at the bottom. I'm going to have to finish this part of the bottom. But I'm going to take this down to match the rest. So I'm going to go ahead and do. Well, there you have it. I turned the bottom. I signed it and I sealed it. Of course, the bottom ain't near as shiny as the outside. It's got a little shine to it. And that has been sanded all the way, then put across the buffer system, and then finished, and then buffed with wax. And it's shiny pretty good. But to tell you the honest truth, I can't really tell any difference than if I just sanded it all the way up, and then put my favorite finish on it. But I won the buffing system, so thought I'd try it and see if it'd make any difference. Like I said, I honestly can't tell any difference. But it is shiny, that's for sure. Well, I want to thank you for watching the video. Hope you got something from it. And be sure and come back and see my next video. If you have any questions, you can always email me. I'm going to leave my email along the bottom here somewhere. So again, thank you and come back.